Microsoft, as you know, is the world's largest software company, but the creator of Windows has lost its leadership role in high tech to Apple and Google and now Facebook.
Investigative journalist Kurt Eichenwald says it's really no accident. In a scathing article in Vanity Fair, he writes about Microsoft's lost decade.
Kurt Eichenwald is with us this morning. We're pleased to have him here. So what's the problem at Microsoft?
In the most simple terms, Microsoft lost its way.
We know that. That's the consequence.
Well, right. But what happened was you had a company where everybody was making millions solely from the rise of stock prices, and when that changed, when the stock hit a wall, they had to figure out, how do we keep people motivated? How do we keep people going? And what they've done is they've created a company that's really more like a GE or more like an auto company. Mm-hmm. And the idea of being incentivized to develop products just isn't there anymore. You've got people who are incentivized to climb the corporate ladder and to compete with each other in terms of, getting the next bonus. Mm-hmm. And the culture just doesn't have that infusion of dynamic moving to the next step.
There's this thing called the stacking system, which you talk about here, which Jack Welch famously used very well at GE, but it doesn't work according to what you found out?
No, I mean
at Microsoft.
The thing is that nothing can be grafted from one company to the next. Every company has a different culture. Everyone has different requirements, different needs.
Could you explain how that works? Because when I read it, I thought this has to be wrong. This stacking system.
Wow. The way stack ranking works is you take, let's say the four of us work in the same division. And we have a boss. I guess you guys all have a boss somewhere.
We do, yes.
And that boss looks down and says, it doesn't matter what kind of job you're doing. One of you is great, two of you are mediocre, and one of you is terrible. And I, as your boss, have no choice, because my boss says I have to rank you that way. And so...
And what if two of you are great, Kurt? What if two or three
What if four of you are great?
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
See, I don't like that.
And so...
Jack Welch, as he defined this, it's an interesting point, which was that the bottom 10%, he said, you owe it to them to say, you don't have a great future here, and make a shift. And that's a responsibility to tell them why and what's happened, rather than saying there's other guys,
But then you get to probabilities. What's the probability? Sure, there may be 10% throughout the whole company. Mm-hmm. What's the probability that 10% breaks up evenly, unit to unit to unit to unit? If you have a 10-person unit, what's the probability that one of those people is in fact one of the corporate-wide 10%?
Probably pretty good, but in Erica's introduction, she used the word scathing. That's how people are describing it. Did you mean for it to be scathing, and did you have a hard time getting people to talk to you?
It's very funny because I don't start off with any article going, and when I read online, somebody said scathing article, and I thought, really? Went back and read it. Oh, yeah, it is a little rough.
Yes. Steve is not going to be not inviting you to lunch anytime soon.
She means Steve Ballmer, the new CEO who followed Bill Gates.
Right. I didn't have a lot of trouble getting people to talk to me because it was interesting. The main issue was getting somebody to return your phone call. A lot of people did, and once they did, they really opened up, and it was not from the position of I'm griping about Microsoft. It was more from the position of resigned acceptance.
Did you talk to Bill Gates?
I did not, but he's not really been a significant force inside the company in terms of management for several years.
Is part of the problem with the company that it seems to have lost focus? Because for so long, it was the software giant. Trying to do too much?
Absolutely.
And not doing any of it well.
The easiest way to point that out is say, okay, who is competing with Microsoft? Well, it depends which division you're talking about. Xbox, it competes with Sony. On business to business, it competes with IBM. On computers, iPads, phones, pads, it competes with Apple. On search, it competes with Google. Every one of these is a completely different and often unrelated business. And so when you have something that the standard is it technology? Well, Microsoft will try it. You've gone so thin, you've gone so disparate that it's very hard to keep your focus. 'Cause
And
there
in
isn't
many
one.
cases, it's been a game of catch-up. So is there an answer then does Microsoft in some ways need to cut its losses and just focus on one thing?
Microsoft needs to figure out what it wants to be when it grows up. In truth, you have several companies inside one big company, and it happens in the past. They should be broken up.
But Microsoft should be broken up. That's an antitrust question.
No. I mean from a corporate strategy question.
But here is the point. I mean, Microsoft, all of those companies are in each other's business now. I mean, they're all in social networking now. They're all in search now, one way or the other. And Microsoft now has Bing, which is actually getting good reviews.
But it doesn't matter because it's costing them billions, and it's not. Bing is their search engine competing against Google. Google keeps growing in the number of customers it has, number of people using it.
So what should Microsoft focus on?
What they do well.
Well, what
First
is
of
that?
all, servers, operating systems, software, business to business. Nobody does it that like them. You know, getting consulting business to help set up corporate operations. They can do devices, which is a completely different area, but they need to free it of the overarching corporate problems that you have when you have so many different companies together.
I'll say this quickly. The irony of all this is they used to laugh at IBM, as you point out. IBM has been able to regroup and become very successful. Microsoft has to somehow learn that lesson now.
Apple did it too.
Yeah.
You know, Apple was
came
a
back
disaster.
under the
They
new
came
leadership.
back. Right.
So there's hope and time for Microsoft.
Yep, you said they're just not cool anymore. There's something to be said about being cool. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Kurt. Thank you.